That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature that mean extorted it. They forging it. If news ain't good informants who informing them, there's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this: we courting ships, important gifts. Of course it is, but extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informing this, informing this. It looked like we were storing tricks, pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically we in a field, that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers actors say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real?
In a world, what's up, guys? In a world where these streams are back-to-back gravy fountains. How's it going, everybody? We got a special guest going to ladle a lot of gravy tonight. Should be cool. We're going to let Nathan introduce him, of course. As always, we'll read all of the donations at the end of the stream. Links to support in the description. Cash App, Patreon, PayPal, and, of course, Super Chats. They will all be read out at the end. Yeah, if you happen to catch the last stream, it was pretty crazy. Well, this one will also be pretty wild. So I'm going to let Nathan introduce him a little bit.
Hey guys, Mr. C contacted me. He doesn't want us to use his real name, so we'll just call him Mr. C. But I interviewed him right before my channel got deleted, and immediately 3 to 5 people hit me up and said, man, I can't find that Mr. C interview. Where'd it go? So they really enjoyed everything this guy had to say. It's going to have to do with the Vril and the proboscis and them being crazy baby-eating witches. And we kind of want to let Nate do most of the talking. He knows a lot about this subject. We're going to talk about Quicksilver, why we burn in the sun, canines. So, Nate, are you there? Hold on, we're going to have to. You there, Mr.
Yeah.
C?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir. We're here.
All right. All right.
Great, bro.
How's it going?
How's it going, guys? You enjoying your evening?
Yes, sir.
All right. So how do we want to begin? How do you guys want to start the story?
Where would you want to start if we were going to start somewhere?
Well, I mean, you always got to start a story in the beginning, right? So like tonight, I was doing a Bible study, if you were, on the word Gabor, which if you type that into a Google in Hebrew, it's going to give you superhero, or it'll give you the television show Heroes, where these people had very specific gifts that made them super or above humans, right? So essentially, what I've done in my studies is come to realize that there's a very real possibility that all the monsters that we read about in history past are anchored in some sort of reality, to include, all these super beings. We all know that giants existed. We all know that the Native Americans have stories. We all see the stories in Greek history. We all see the stories everywhere, every continent. And so really, if giants exist and all these other things exist, and Yeshua cast quote unquote demons or spirits or entities out of one man, what is possible? Right.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I think we have a very conditioned mind to not even entertain things that seem wild to us. And oftentimes truth lies more in that direction. Truth is oftentimes stranger than fiction. I believe that's pretty true. So I'm very open-minded. I remember hearing, jumping on and listening to a bit of your stream with Nathan, and I was like, oh man, this dude's ladling gravy. So yeah, like you said, it goes way back. And I think that most of my stream is pretty open-minded. They'll be interested to hear what you think you put together, bro.
Yeah. So let's.
Hey, Nate, you also mentioned the monsters. It reminded me of Monsters, Inc., guys, which is a movie about scaring little kids to get points for their company or some kind of points or reward system based on scaring little kids. And they do it at night while the kids are sleeping. And the guy who runs the company, the CEO, said, I don't care if I have to kidnap 1,000 kids to keep this company going. I'll do what I have to do. So they're putting all the truth in movies. And also, the Bible says that the blood is in the life, or the life is in the blood. So that right there, I mean, the life is in the blood. Leviticus. So that's why they drink it, guys, because there's life in there. And Jesus was offered the world by the devil, guys, all kingdoms. So who do you think runs the world? The Luciferians. And Luciferians have run the world since organized human history began. They have been steering and shaping the planetary cultural vector since long before the United States, Romans, or even the Egyptians. This cult goes way back. It's also known as the old religion. They have maintained direct contact with the fourth dimension being known as Lucifer for thousands of years. Lucifer is a parasitic, genderless phantasmagoria. It has been anthropomorphized into human recognizable forms and names throughout time and all over the world, and a legion of other fourth dimensional beings like it have been pilfering the human race since the beginning. Luciferians communicate directly with Lucifer through the ritual practice of child sacrifice. This practice to invoke or convene with Leviathan originated in the cult of Baal, like the globeheads like worshiping the Baal that they believe in, even though we don't see it in reality. Baal is just another name for Leviathan or Lucifer or Moloch. These are referencing the same energy, the cult of Baal, which is the oldest cult ever established on this earth, and is the ancient precursor to Luciferianism. Luciferianism, I personally consider simply a formalized and highly organized cult of Baal. So, how was that, Nate? Was that good? Good place to start?
Yeah, I mean that covers a lot there. I guess we could begin with, and let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, my son gave me his.
You sound great, bro.
Oh, good. I have his Xbox headset on, so I don't know what I'm doing, but
it's working.
Good deal. Anyway, like there's so many mysteries about who we think we are, where we come from. Let's look at Baal. This is something like there's Geo.
Yeah.
But I think they're like homophones, like words that sound similar, especially cross language, can be troublesome. Like, we hear Baal and we think Baal, where in Hebrew Baal just means Lord, right? As in a Lord of the manor or Lord of the land. So like in example, Baal Peor, I personally believe that the etymology is pe for mouth and or is light. So the Lord with the mouth of light. And there's obviously no theologian. There's no two theologians actually that agree on anything. There's no settled science anywhere, not even biblically. So, let's look at more biblical stuff like Genesis, where it talks about the Elohim, which in Hebrew Elohah means goddess. And then when you put the mem on the end, it's like an S in English. The mem makes it plural, except according to Hebrew, Jewish tradition, really, the mem magically turns the word into a singular masculine. And it's really just to protect the idea of monotheism. And when the reality of the Bible is that there is no monotheism, it's when it talks about the Eloha or the Elohim, it's talking about a bunch of gods, lesser gods, and then Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is the Most High, or the originator, or the king, the whatever you want to say. So, you know, words are very, very important. They've been hidden from us. The problem with English is the language of confusion. It's a borrower's tongue. You know, all our words that we get are from another language, or they're, you know, conceived from the modern era. Whereas like with Latin, it's not dead. Latin just doesn't have a nationality. It doesn't have anybody that speaks it as a national language, but it's still spoken everywhere by a lot of people. So, you know, we live in a time where I think we're coming into what we would consider a time of revelation. Is it the revelation? I don't think we have enough intel. Let's talk about stuff we can prove. I can prove that we have a lot of people that are alive. Most people now have fair skin, specifically, can't spend 8 hours outside with their dog in the sun sunbathing because their skin, you know, their tissue would fill with fluid and they would bloat and they would die. So that's kind of, you know, even since my childhood as a Baptist, that's kind of bothered me that, you know, we're the only ones really that have to run from the sunlight, really. You know, and then we have, if you do any amount of dental research, we have really deformed mouths. You know, our teeth are all over the place. If you look at ancient skulls, the ones that haven't been messed with, where they knock the teeth out of them, you'll see that, you know, a lot of these quote unquote ancient skulls actually had pretty round teeth, kind of like horse teeth. And in fact, I sent Nathan a graphic, I think it was last week, where I kind of illustrated the ancient idea of the shin, which a lot of scholars would say is a picture of the two front teeth, where I would argue it's a picture of the teeth as a condition overall. And you can see where they started they were drawn more like a horse tooth, you know, a tooth that's designed to grind the grains and berries of the field, you know. And then it graduates to kind of a bunny rabbit square shape. And then all of a sudden, you know, when all this funny business surrounding, you know, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh essentially divorcing and disassociating Yisrael, they go through this series of punishments to include this deal at Baal Peor, and then all the way into Babylon, where they come out of Babylon and the language has been completely changed. And the shin, which is the teeth, are drawn how I would describe a vampire's teeth. So, you know, we have to look at our condition, you know, as it is. There's three words that share the same meaning, and that's experience, experiment, and expert. And so you have to experience an experiment to become an expert at something. And so, in my expert opinion, we share too many characteristics with what we would consider Hollywood vampires than with what I would describe as a biblical man. If that makes any sense to start us off.
Oh, it makes sense. It's very intriguing. Very intriguing.
Nathan, what do you guys say about the two rows of teeth? Does that happen
Yeah.
with them?
Yeah, you know, like, it's hard to say. I was just looking at the Raphaim and the Nephilim. And in fact, the word Gibor is used. Let me see if I can move my screen and you guys don't lose me. Let me see here. I think I'm safe. Yep, we're good. So let me look at this real quick.
Cool. If you ever want to, you also can share screen, bro. It's up to you, though. Yeah, everybody, open your mind. This gets very intriguing.
You know, there's some kind of good ones out there, but most of them, in my opinion, are lacking. Or what happens is they'll translate certain words that they feel are important, which I actually began doing early on, and then just kind of everything else you trust. And I've actually come to learn that you can't really trust anything, and you have to verify everything, which, you know, we all should do anyway. So if you look at Genesis 6:4, it says there existed giants on the land in those very days, and also after that. And it was then that the sons of Elohim. So if we look at Elohim and we consider that that's saying Eloha, which is feminine, and then we make it plural. So when we could say that the sons of the goddesses came into the daughters of Adam specifically. That's just not men, but that specifically says Adam there. So, and it's, you see in the English here a lot of plurals that don't exist necessarily. This could be talking about one offspring. It could be one daughter. So this daughter of Adam, the word in Hebrew is yalad, or bore young to, let's see, to the very same, and they were Gibor, or supermen, or superheroes, from Olam. And in Hebrew, Olam is kind of a tough thing to say in English, but essentially it's the idea of either anciently in a past time that you can't understand, like we can't. I mean, pretty much, like we are, the condition we're in, or in a future time that we can't understand because it's unseen. And so essentially what it's saying is that these were men, and it uses here the word anish or ish in Hebrew, which means sick and dying. So mortal man that were renowned. So when I read that, it makes me think of all the Greek heroes and all the superheroes that we hear about in all our mythology that are beyond normal, what we would consider normal. The other aspect that I've really considered is if we are a diminutive, smaller, sickly form of man, it would explain why we don't live as long, and we are probably actually smaller in stature, where you might look at a man that's 7'4" now and think, what a big basketball player, what a huge guy. And anciently, maybe that was small. We just don't know.
And Enoch and all of them back in the day were 900,000 years old.
Yeah, they were really rolling with the long age back then again. But, let's just say that we do have a condition, and it's an STD, because obviously, none of us asked for this condition. We're born into it. And, it really boils.
You're saying our sinful flesh body is an STD?
I'm saying that they have an STD of sorts, because what is an STD? What's it stand for? Sexually transmitted disease, right? So if you,
I guess you're right. Dis-ease. It says in the Bible, in the future there'll be no pain, no hurt, no tears,
that's right.
No dis-ease.
That's right. Yeah,
that's what he saved us. He's going to save us from, or has.
Well, yeah, and there's no salvation here, and that's what he came back. Yeshua specifically came back for a lot of cool stuff that's actually lost in the English, and of course, men's traditions have ruined a lot of the cool stuff. But specifically, he came back to tell everybody, and he did many times, nobody's getting out of here alive. You guys are all going to follow me into Sheol, or the grave, right?
Ooh, rich or poor, this is what we all have in common.
That's right. Death is what we all share. And at the time, specifically, he said he did not hold a cure, but it sounds like to me there's a possibility that some of us that could be caught up in the air at this return would be changed, as it were. And in my mind, that's cured. That means that this body gets essentially changed into the butterfly it was meant to be, without the sickness of what we could coin as vampirism. But really, Saeed is the picture of a headless one, which I think comes from the Book of Kings, which they were going around it. Israel was commanded to go around cutting heads off. So yeah.
So why do you think we burn in the sun?
I think we have an STD. I think, well, let's see what the sun does first, right? Well, let's go to Lucifer, that term Lucifer. So first of all, that's in the biblical record just because some guy put it in there and it's Latin, right? And so just like everybody says Jesus Christ, they're like Jesus Christ like it's John Smith. When Christ is Christos or Mashiach in Hebrew, and it just means anointed. In fact, we would just be described as anointed. We would be Christos, all of us, because we are part of the club, as it were, of dudes who actually like Yod He Wah He, we like Yeshua, and we want to hang in that nightclub later on, as opposed to the other guys, right? So, and then of course his first name was Yeshua. So people are really just word illiterate. It's unfortunate. There's been a lot of fear growing up in the last 40 years myself, from the pulpit of, unless you're chosen, you'll never understand. And Greek is too hard. And, when the reality is all these biblical tools have been laid out before us, and it just takes a little bit of effort, and I'm the first.
Bro. I love what you're saying there. He said, be not afraid over and over in the Bible. And he also says, you are my people. You will know the truth. It's not that hard to figure out. But if you're in a cult of bumpy particles and you think mass attracts mass and your science changes every 100 years, 200 years, it's constantly morphing. Yeah. Well, that reality you live in can be very difficult to understand.
Yeah. So, well, their pseudo reality is this idea that, it's once upon a time, that TV show where a group of supernatural storytime characters had been put into this modern time where cell phones are a thing and cars are a thing, and they had forgotten their magic and they had forgotten all these magical things. And, people they don't forget, but people are ignorant to our overall condition for the time we're living in. And I'll point out technology. Technology comes from techne, which is the technique or art, and logia is of communication. And really it harkens to the art or the technique, hence techne, of divine communication. And if you look at anything that we have now, it always goes back to astrology. And astrology is communication with the stars. And it's not lost on me when somebody says, like in all these lyrics, these guys are like, oh, I make a wish upon a star and now I have all this stuff. And, the stars have always played a really important part in the reality of witchcraft and sorcery, which we all use today. Our hand has been forced. We grew up with He-Man and all these cartoons, and we think, hey, scrying mirrors, which are TVs, they're cool. We get all our food from this big government box. We stopped growing our own victuals. We live in a time of treachery. We have been bamboozled. We have forgotten that no man stands above another. Yeshua stood before his peeps and he said, if any one of you ever stands up and says, I want to lead you, make that man your servant.
Yeah, he says the greatest of you will be the least. So
that's right.
I say this all the time. Be the change you want to see. Sharing's king. Jesus went around saying, you want to be great? Don't expect someone to feed you grapes and fan you down with palm leaves.
Right.
Get out there and get to work. That's how greatness is achieved. And
it's about echad, which means in Hebrew, a lot of people translate it as one, but it really means unity, to be united in cause. And, we can't be united if we're arguing over the things we eat, or truly, I know how strongly you feel about the food you eat, and I feel strongly about the food I eat. And, we both agree that eating the flesh of the dead is not necessarily the best thing ever. But Yeshua addressed that a few times. Guys, he didn't go after any of his taught ones because they were eating fish. He wasn't bashing them over their diet. He wasn't going after anybody about what they ate. In fact, many times he spoke that, it goes in your mouth and you poop it out. How can it make a man unclean? He said it's what leaves a man's mouth that makes him unclean.
Right. Amen. And blessed are the peacemakers. So don't go around kicking over other people's cups and pretending holier than thou. That's right. Really not what I try to do. But on this topic, I did have a question written down. Do you think consuming dead animal flesh can lead to a type of vampirism blood addiction?
I think that these things already have that STD. So, we have, there's nobody that's listening that doesn't have duality. And I love Kenneth Wheeler. I want to actually give him a big bear hug and like squeeze him and stuff. He's just so snuggly and wise. But he doesn't actually think that nature itself or the cosmos has, this dual nature, duality. Whereas I would disagree, because we ourselves have a dual nature. We have the nature of the body and the flesh, like Shaul or Paul said, where he called him the old man all the time, or the sinful body, or the flesh. And I just use the term robot, which is Ukrainian for slave. That's where we get robot or robot. I'm probably butchering that, but
Wow.
but it's really, you're a slave to the vampire and its proclivities. I'm not going to even get into some of the dark thoughts we all have.
How did the slaves get here from Africa? They rowboat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were robots, all right. They were slaves, right?
Robots.
So,
Interesting.
so a robot just is a slave, and what making us think that we're on a globe has done what? Oh, hold on, my cat's trying to bite the cord here. Hold on.
No, I did want to say, you were talking about the stars and how they've hidden the stars and they use it for their wizardry and their magic. Think about the song, guys. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's how right. I wonder what you are. They're basically saying we don't know what stars are. They're big balls of gas in a vacuum, which violates the second law of thermodynamics. And I show people stars, Nathan, and they'll literally say, "What is that?" And I go, "Bro, I recorded this myself. I just told you I was going to show you a star." And they're like, "What is it?" Because they're so disconnected from reality.
Right. Well, they're in a spell, right? Like when Morpheus was trying to school Neo, he said, you can reach back into the Matrix and you can try to pull up your friend Becky, and you can try to find Chuck, and they will literally cut your wrists as you try to pull them out of the Matrix. And it's because the spell is so strong that any loss of any portion of this reality is too much for people that have settled for where they are.
Yeah, it's like the analogy a lifeguard's trained. If someone doesn't want to be saved and they try to, they're not willing, they can drown you trying to save themselves.
That's right.
So you need a willing participant to be saved.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, it really, I'm going to be just honest. And again, everybody is a cog in this machine. I'll bring up a quick story with Yeshua. He's going around doing his thing, and he hears this blind guy and he heals him, and they're going to leave, and his apostles are like, or his taught ones are kind of like, hey, isn't that kind of like stupid that he was born blind? Like, what's up with that?
What was that for, man? That's messed up.
Yeah, that's messed up. And he's like, oh, that guy? Oh yeah, he was born blind so I could heal him today.
Like, what?
What an answer.
And what that speaks to is a great algorithm. An algorithm. An algorithm just means a system of rules that is written down to follow, right? And so there is the master who wrote this program, if you want to call it that, because a program is the same system of rules. He has put in play so many mechanisms of good and evil that play all to his end game. I like to say it like this. So if he made a river and we're stuck in the river, and we're always fighting, like we're trying to swim upstream and we get tired and then we drown all the time, right? And let's imagine that death is the bank on either side. We don't have a choice. Time flows one way, so you're stuck in the river, right? And again, death represented on either shore. So it doesn't matter. We can swim around rocks. We can kind of like go around objects, and we can do things in the river. We can take action in the river, but in the end, the flow of the river goes to where the creator wants it anyway. Right. So you have free will, but it's inside his machine.
I always say this: YouTube has their algorithms, but God has his algorithms.
That's
too.
right. Yeah.
So
and his are powerful. His.
He says, you are my people. You will know the truth. You will know it.
Right.
And then also Psalm 2. He says, why do the nations rage? Plot a vain thing. The kings of the earth taking up arms against the Lord and his anointed, saying, let us be in this cult of Baal. Let's do pointless vaccines and tell people Earth's and et cetera, right? And God says, he laughs, and then he will hold them in derision. How do you beat the creator with YouTube algorithms? You goofballs.
He used to laugh about cities that way, because the creator, if you go read the Torah or the Tanakh or the Old Testament, whatever you want to call it, the whole Bible, just call it all Torah. I do. So if you go and actually break it down, the creator hates cities, and he actually has a couple good chuckles in there where he's like, you guys are hiding from me behind your city walls. Like, look at what I did to Jericho just with like a snort of my nostril. It's really sometimes how we reason is so childlike and stupid that I think he literally, it's kind of like not annoying, but it's surprising that he thinks we can get away with what we think we can.
Yeah. Nate, he said, I know all things work towards good for those that love God. And people are like, oh no, there's a little cloud on the horizon. It might rain. It's like, he's got everything covered right there. Oh, our president didn't win the election. We're screwed. No, he's got all things covered. All things work towards good for those that love God. I mean, what is this?
Let's go back to cosmology. Let's go back to stars. Let's look at the wise men that are called the wise men. They were the Kesdim. So the Kesdim, if you go look at their etymology, were from Arakpakshad. And Arakpakshad was, I believe, the grandson of Noach or Noah. And they are credited with early sorcery, which they derived from the stars. And the story actually goes that one of their children was out messing around, saw some stone writings, was educated, could read and write, saw that it was astronomy and astrology, and it gave them the ability to, again, communicate with the stars. So we know that the stars aren't what they tell us. We know that planets aren't what they say, and we know that the ground isn't what they say it's doing. All of those things are a distraction, because if you look at what the Kesdim did, they communicated with a star, which we can say, we know at least, gentlemen, we've looked at them. We know that they throw geometry. Have you ever looked at them? They'll throw like squares and circle, triangle. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, but I've never seen one static or still, right? It's kind of hard to comprehend it.
Yes, it's very quick. But I think if you were to slow that down, I think you would see that it was throwing geometric shapes and things that if we were savvy, it was probably communicating with us. Hey, you want to build a spaceship? Here's the recipe. Because remember, a lot of these watchers and a lot of these stars, these creatures have left their abode, just like down here. This is just a dumpster fire, right? And so with all this going on, people have lost the magic. And we really need to get that back. We really need to believe in things that go bump in the night, because how do you explain all the 411 cases? I mean, those they're insane.
It reminds me of what the stream we just did with Marcus Rogers' dream that I sent Austin. He said he showed up in this giant room that was ever expanding. He literally couldn't tell where it ended, right? And God had this golden ball on foundation surrounded by a snake in the corner, and he wasn't even worried about it. He said it was like his pinky toe. And we're in it, right? We're living in it. And he's going, all things, bro, I got it covered. What are you worried about? Step out on faith, step out of the boat, step out on the water, and it will turn into green pastures, and God will provide. And there'll be an eagle that comes behind, and it's got gold on the wings, and there'll just be kingdom, rewards, and providence, and grace.
Well, we have to wake up to some realities first, right? Like, why do I burn in the sun? Why are my teeth pointy? Why do I have 2 sets of teeth? Is that normal? They told us it's normal. But is it normal to lose your teeth bloodily when you're a little kid and then they grow back in? We don't know. There's so many questions. Redheads. Redheads are very fascinating. We actually happen to be in the presence of a redhead. There's lots of studies that show that redheads have a much higher pain tolerance. That takes more anesthesia to put them down. So there's a lot of, and you guys watch the same channels I really do. You guys have seen all the stuff coming out about the redheads, mummies in Egypt. A lot of the Tartarian stuff was a bunch of redheaded folks, and supposedly this Atlantis that was between Greenland and modern day Ireland. And that's why Ireland has all these pasty redheads, is because when that was mud flooded or catastrophed or whatever you want to say, these redheads spread out, but they had all this Atlantean tech or knowledge. Guys, we just are so in the dark. All we can do is grasp onto what we can observe, and we know that the sun is designed to attack sorcery. There's nothing alchemical that we have come up with: plastic, steel, stainless steel, aluminum, rubber. it doesn't matter. You park it in front of the sun, and the sun's going to cook it back down into its main constituents, because sorcery is forbidden. It's a no-no.
Right. Well, like, for lack of a better word, I'll use the word vampirism, right? But say, like, do you think that there's a spectrum of this transition or whatever, or is there kind of like a base we all fall in this group, and it's something that happened long ago, and we're just not being told exactly what it is, or the true nature of, let's call it, our evolution, although we know that word's grabbled? Or do you think that these practices, when practiced more often, or maybe with a particular type of consumption, is there like a spectrum of the characteristics or the change that the body takes, you think? Or are these people really not any different than us, and they just think they're special? Or what's your take on that?
Okay, so I think that, and this is a tough question. I've actually was good friends with a guy that actually grew up in the, for lack of better words, Illuminati. And I know that sounds crazy. That's like everything else that sounds crazy. But if you kind of knew the backstory on these people, they drink their own Kool-Aid. They worship, in a lot of cases, weird deities. Like they can worship the sun. That's goes back to the light, or Lucifer, or Lucifero. You know, like you can go like, and this is another thing that is with words. If you learn a little bit of Latin, you can go in and listen to the benedictions that the Catholics do, and all they're doing is they're doing what they started to do from the beginning, and they've never been shy about the fact that they worship the sun. So you can listen to this benediction, and it's like, "Oh, light bringer, the morning star, which brings light, which is the sun, blah blah blah." And this benediction is just worshiping the sun, Helios. And so what they've done was, if they make everybody forget that we're all in maximum security prison, and they make everybody into a servant, and they make you think that tea's real, and TVs are real, and cars are real, and this whole system is real, and taxes is real, and you have now at least 4 or 5 generations that have bought into it. Since World War II, we're all like, "Yep, work your job until you die," and then do. When the reality is, if we knew real cosmology, if we knew that the Kesdim, the wizards or sorcerers that came to pay homage to Yeshua because a star told them where he was going to be, latitude, longitude.
Yeah, I just got up to walk over and say, what about the 3 wise men? Why were they wise? Well, they were watching the stars, and they showed up, and Jesus was in a manger.
They were they were communicating. They were literally like, guys, we're using high sorcery right now. I'm talking to you guys from across thousands of miles with no lag.
Right, through the ether.
Through the ether. This is high sorcery. This is, well, in my humble opinion, all this power generation is the power of the dead. You'll like this, Austin, because of your scienciness that you and I both share when it comes to magnetism and dielectrics. So the Bible describes the ground as a capacitor and not a battery. Why capacitor? Because capacitors are made to discharge at one time. Okay. So, but usually capacitors can hold like a lot of voltage, tons and tons. So we can witness through experimentation that all forms of energy that we can witness try desperately to get back to ground. Right.
Right.
And how we block that is we put these shields around these copper serpents and aluminum serpents, and these shields don't allow this energy to return to ground. And if it's open to the ether, it's going to get there, right? In electrical terms, you could call it an open arc or whatever. So I think that this is literally just necromancy. You take copper serpents, you make what's called a winding, and you spin that winding around magnets, and it stirs up the dead from the ground, from this capacitor. And we're using the power of the dead to make all this witchcraft work, all the TVs.
Mr. C, that's crazy, because the plugs that go into the wall have 2 forks like a serpent's mouth, like a fang out of a serpent's mouth. So are you saying that the electrical units we plug into the wall are a serpent's tongue connecting to the dead?
So if you look back at when when there was some stuff going on in the countryside with the people after Egypt or Mitzrayim got its butt handed to it. The people were yet again failing miserably at a test, and it said that fiery serpents were biting them, poisoning them, doing something. The term fiery there doesn't do much good. I mean, but there's a sense of electricity, at least in our view there, because in order to heal them, Moshe was told to fashion what? Nachasht in Hebrew, which is copper. So he was told to fashion a copper serpent around a staff, and any that would stare on it would be healed. Well, Israel, because they were so good at always doing pagan things, ended up keeping that for 400 years and worshiping it, and they named it Nahashtun. And I believe it was, I can't remember who it was. Herod, maybe one of the kings, finally had enough later on and had it destroyed. But
Wow.
The word copper actually comes and is tied to the serpent from the beginning that beguiled the woman. That's in Hebrew, that's Nachash. And if you guys go type that right now into Google Translate, it will say wizard, sorcerer. I'm not even joking. So, just the act of speaking, we can look around our world and we can see that we are the only ones that have the ability to speak, and we can see that speech is spelling, and we know that it's supernatural because we can change the mood of others. I can yell at a dog and tell it how bad it is and get crazy, and that dog's gonna want to kill itself just based on my spell. So there's so much that people don't know and haven't considered because we're made to be busy. That's what clocks are for. The Egyptians made the modern 24-hour clock, and Yeshua said, hey guys, there aren't 12 hours in a day. A day is when the sun comes up and it goes down. You know that. We inherently as children know that. But when you're a slave, they need you to watch a clock so you can be accountable to the minute and to the second. It's why your boss is like, show up at 8 o'clock, don't be late or I'm going to fire you.
I want to ask you a question. You said the earth works as a capacitor. Well, does the system that we live in have a battery? Is something storing energy, like how the moon changes phases and goes full moon? Is it releasing energy and gathering it? What do you think's going on there?
Okay, so, knowing that the creator has made certain metals that are supernatural. So the only reason that we mine gold and the only reason we mine silver and copper is because we can do witchcraft with it.
Yeah, exactly. And gold its real value is magnetic permeability or conductivity. That's right. And what is the firmament made of? I don't know.
Gold and silver and copper.
Well, check this out. We all live in a yellow submarine, right? Gold is pretty much yellow. The Bible says the streets are paved with gold. Marcus Rogers, who got a dream from God, who's a globehead, doesn't even understand what he saw, said what he saw was gold. Look up the most famous dome in the world, ladies and gentlemen. The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. It is gold. The Capitol building in Denver. Roof, dome, gold. The
term rachia in Hebrew means a dome or a bowl or a dish, as in the idea of a coppersmith sitting and working a sheet of copper until it's a bowl shape. And so literally, I believe it's Jeff Bender's definition is as a hammered out bowl or a bowl hammered out.
Wow. Nate, did you know the word matrix means mold? So when they would make pottery and clay back in the day, they would pour it into a matrix. And the matrix was the mold. So when you're stuck in the matrix, you're stuck in the mold. You're stuck in what they poured you into. That is, your ancestors are rocks. And mass attracts mass. Oh, no, we change it. It's bendy space-time. And you live on a pear. And the earth rotates under footballs. And now you have to wear a mask because oxygen's dangerous. It's clown world. Welcome to the tour.
How crazy is it? Because we've been lied to about the value of gold. It goes all the way back to ancient civilizations. This was like the primary mineral that they were obsessed with. Why, right? And if you understand that the Watchers actually came down with this information and knowledge from the state above, then why were they so obsessed with gold, right? There has to be a very peak value of minerals, and gold's at the top because even the Watchers themselves, engineered around it. At least that's why I see it.
think about, okay, so we're talking alchemy. So the roots of alchemy, actually, of that word, goes back to the dark soil that lines the Nile, or the borders of the Nile River, and that soil had alchemical. See, it's one guy modernly. I'm not even joking. One guy, I can't remember his name, probably a Jesuit, literally is like, hey, let's not call it alchemy anymore. Let's call it chemistry, so everybody does it in school and thinks it's awesome, right?
Right.
And it's just taking one, or truly, technically, if you want to be a stickler, baking bread is alchemy. You're taking many constituents, putting them together, heating them, and you make this other product, right? But it's not like I don't think that the creator's like too hardcore on this magic stuff, guys, except for like when you go back to when he wanted his crib, right? It says that he had to find a dude and download that dude with all the information of how to mine silver, how to mine gold, how to tinsmith, how to goldsmith, how to do linens. And then this one guy disseminates it to these other people just so he can have a sweet crib, because humanity didn't have that knowledge up to that point, apparently.
Wow.
And that's called the tabernacle, but
Right.
it was just a place for him to dwell. And he just go look at the list of stuff he wanted. It's just really blingy, sweet stuff.
Hey, Nate, when you follow the money, I mean, money's not paper, obviously. They know that. It sounds like
Right.
you're following the yellow brick road.
Right. Well, let's go back to the rakia. So let's say it's a precious metal. Well, what does it do? Well, we know that it holds back the water. What kind of water, we don't know. We know that he opened up the windows, apparently, that are, or something in the dome that allowed these waters to pour through at one time to help flood this place, because it's a fishbowl, essentially, this, or whatever you want to call it. But I personally, at this point, believe that it serves also the function of being a Faraday cage, because the magnetic field required to generate the third dimension is so massive that if you were exposed to it yourself, to the field, it would just turn you into a puddle. And so you're going to need some sort of Faraday apparatus to hold back that energy. And I think a lot of the energy that like Austin was asking, like, what powers what? Well, we know that Tesla said that he, instead of tapping into the power of the dead, which is deadly, go figure, guys, wink, wink, you get electrocuted, you're done. It's the dead getting you, right? He said he was tapping into a different force that wasn't deadly at all. In fact, he stood on stage and was covered in blue light and was laughing, and everybody was freaking out, right?
Oh, he glowed. Exactly. They thought it was a magic trick. That's what made him famous.
It is magic. It is magic, guy. All this is magic. We're doing magic right now. See, that's why you guys need to go do word studies on sorcery, magic, witchcraft, Wicca, Kasdim, genies, demons. All these words mean something different than you guys are thinking, I guarantee you. So it's a literacy that is keeping us from what we should know, and that's hopefully a little bit of our history, so we can kind of know our future. At this point, as long as everybody believes in presidents of corporations and vice presidents and all this WWE action that they put on the scrying mirror, instead of doing like you guys are doing, and you're going to go make real connections with real people, you're going to go try to educate people why they want us to think that the stars are not, these weird beings that can give us information. They want us to forget the fact that elites are literally drinking other robots for some reason, like eating babies and scaring them and doing all this wicked stuff, because number one, I think they all know we're in prison together. And that's what I think the ice wall is, by the way, is because this STD started to spread farther than it should. And sometime around 1700, the ice wall was formed. It would cause the 22 or so foot rise in the ocean levels that we can document today. It would bury all those ancient cities. It would cause, let's look at this, guys. We know these guys are these reversal clowns, right? They're telling us through school, oh, look, ice age this, ice age that, ice age this, ice age that. But we look at the record, I can't ever find any ice or snow anywhere at all. It's modern. I think we're in the Ice Age right now. I think
Wow.
this is the Ice Age.
Oh, that's an interesting theory because that would make a bit of sense. Because
Makes a
obviously
lot
the timeline that they push with this quote unquote science they push is just nonsense. But they do love to throw it out in your face, you know.
That's right. You know, that story that Greek tells where he went to Egypt to hobnob with the sorcerers in Egypt, and they treated him like a little clown, like a little kindergartner, you know, and they were like eighth graders because, you know, they were laughing that if you put your history on paper, a natural disaster will destroy it inevitably. You know, he claimed that there wasn't one flood or catastrophe in the beginning. There has been many, and they've all been hidden because these Phoenicians, these men of the Phoenix or men of victory that are in charge today, they wait for these events or they cause these events, and then they rebuild on the ashes.
Wow, we're getting into some real gravy now. So the Venetians, the men of the Phoenix, of course, we looked into what appears to be the foundation for military operation QAnon. We have this guy talking about their symbols, the Phoenix. We have the 80s magazine owned by the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds, I believe it's the Rockefellers, where it's got the Phoenix bringing the new currency out. So it seems to be one of their symbols, and not just an eagle, but the eagle rising from the ashes. And that's interesting that it ties back to Phoenicians because this group of people, from what I've researched thus far, are basically deified in a way. They're treated as if this is the origin of the superior bloodlines or something like that. I don't know, but because from what I've found, it seems like they think they can track what's called the Phoenicians all the way back to antediluvian Atlantean era.
Yeah. They claim, you know, well, let's look at this war on white that we have now, where these people want all these other folks that have colored skin to get all frothed up and haired up that they've only been slaves. When if you do a real study on slavery, it's very clear that white folks have been slaves and still continue to be slaves. We're all slaves now. So,
Yeah.
so you need to look up what a bondman is, to be in bond with somebody. We are all bound because we think citizenship is good. We should, well, I'm not going to say this, actually. I'm not going to suggest that. Never mind. I'm going to scratch that. But if one were to study and find out if his citizenship is worth having or if it's a liability, and if one could maybe, oh, I don't know, maybe reclaim his Union state citizenship and being a American national who was born here and is a native as much as any Native American Indian. You know, my family came to Northwest Montana in 1866. Am I native? I think I'm native. I mean, how many hundreds of years do we need before somebody's native?
Right. It's a very interesting point you bring up too, because they flipped it like everything. They've inverted it, and it's the white people bad. They've owned slaves forever. And when you look into it, actually, slaves have been owned forever all around the world. And the white people are the minority, not only the minority throughout the slave trade, but they're still the minority in the world itself. Like we're actually a vast, like we're a very, very small percentage of the population. And then if you get into like certain characteristics or traits, like red hair, blue eyes and stuff,
very rare.
Yeah. And it's like, it's crazy because we just live in this Western world of indoctrination, which is actually at the spearhead of the indoctrination and the propaganda, right? And we have people running around that are convinced that like white people are the most evil people ever and that they always enslave people. And we've actually been on the other end of that throughout history. It wasn't like white people didn't exist. It seems like some noble classes were even white back in the day before they were taken over. Everything's been graveled and inverted. It's very interesting that they have this attack on the white people. So I guess I'm saying on that to lead into this. This is a speculative question, of course, but I've heard something to the effect of they really don't like white people because they feel that they have certain genetic markers that tie closer to them, but they're not in the club, basically. So they're like the bastards. I don't know.
Let me answer that as Yeshua answered it. He already answered it. So, you know, lots of folks were coming up to him with their hoity-toity seat or tassels. They'd want to like front, before temple. So they'd be like, some dude would roll up with like 2-foot tassels. Another guy'd have like 16-inch tassels. Right. And it was all this like fronting, if you were. And, then they would do it with their lineage. Well, my great granddaddy was before this, and he was in the Exodus, and he was this, and he was that, and he was one of the chosen 10 from Moshe. And Yeshua showed up and he said, guys, all of you are going to die. all of you are equal. Oh, by the way, it doesn't matter really actually what you eat because you're wearing a vampire. Oops, bad. And right, like your diet is meaningless and your lineage is meaningless. At one time, yes, maybe great granddaddy was important. Now, not so much. When I do my studies, I've seen blacks, yellows, all colors and all creeds that have these markers and proclivities to have this STD of vampirism, where we can't go out into the light. That, if you want to believe that the word is light, if you want to believe that light comes from Yeshua and that he was from the beginning, you can't stand before Yeshua because he'd burn you.
Check this out. When we started talking about electricity, I pulled out the book, The Invisible Rainbow, a history of electricity and life, Arthur Feistenberg. Yep. And I read, imagine you were a patient in 1750 suffering from arthritis. Your electrician would seat you on a chair that had glass legs so you were insulated from the ground. This was done so that you were connected to the friction machine. You would accumulate the electric fluid in your body instead of draining it into the earth. Depending on the philosophy of your electrician, the severity of your disease, and your own tolerance, there were a number of ways to electrotize you. In an electric bath, which was the most gentle, you'd simply hold your hand on a rod connected to the prime conductor, and the machine would be cranked continuously for minutes or hours, communicating its charge throughout your body and creating an electrical aura around you. If this was done gently enough, you would feel nothing. Just like a person who shuffles their feet on carpet can accumulate charge without even being aware of it. After you were thus bathed, the machine would stop, and you would be treated with the electric wind. Electricity discharges most easily from pointed conductors. Therefore, a grounded, pointed metal or wooden wand would be brought toward your painful knee, and you would again feel very little, perhaps the sensation of a small breeze, as the charge that had built up in your body slowly dissipated through your knee into the grounding wand. For a stronger effect, your electrician might use a wand with a rounded end, and instead of a continuous current, actually draw sparks from your ailing knee. If this condition were severe, say your leg or it was paralyzed, he could charge up a small Leyden jar and give your leg a series of shocks. It says the goal of electrotherapy was to stimulate health by restoring electrical equilibrium of the body where it was out of balance. The idea was certainly not new. In another part of the world, the use of natural electricity had been developed to a fine art for thousands of years. Acupuncture needles, as we will see in chapter 9, conduct atmospheric electricity into the body where it travels along precisely mapped pathways, returning through the atmosphere through other needles that complete the circuit. By comparison, electrotherapy in Europe and America, although similar in concept, was in fact science using instruments that were like sledgehammers. European medicine in the 18th century was full of sledgehammers. If you went to a conventional doctor for your rheumatism, they might expect you to be bled, purged, vomited, blistered, or even dosed with mercury. It's easy to understand why people would go to an electrician, and that might seem very attractive. It remained attractive until the beginning of the 20th century. I mean, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think personally we've missed out on a whole time period of electricity. I think, there's a possibility that we've missed out on a whole dirigible, a balloon. Maybe the balloon thing was actually 40 or 50 years and they tried to claim it was like 4, really overall, I think if people were to focus on the fact that their mind isn't their own, that their body is always trying to put some sort of dark thought, some sort of weird thought, something off. And, the New Age and Satanism teaches that you are yourself, become one with you. You are your body. Don't reject your body, on and on and on. And Torah says, hey, you're in a vampire. Wake up. Take control of yourself. Oops, sorry, it sucks. Like you're inevitably going to get the people that are like, I can never follow a God that would allow babies to die. And I'm thinking, guy, we got downloaded into vampire carcasses that go around wanting to do all this evil junk inherently. And we're pulling back on the reins all the time saying, whoa, 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 as eternal beings. You know, it's, I believe the Hebrew word is salem, is image or outline or copy. And it's in the beginning, we were made in the image of the Elohim. And it's not talking physical. It's talking about you, the eternal, the electrical, the 2-dimension being. Just like when we look up and we can only verify the 2nd dimension because there's no stalagmites or stalactites or any tights whatsoever hanging off the dome for us to measure. That the only thing that we can observe in the dome or through the dome or however you want to say it, or the heavens, the sky, is 2 dimensions. We can only verify 2. And so, you know, the scientists would even, you know, quote unquote, air quote, the scientists even agree that we are represented by a low voltage current. We, as in the mind. So people need to wake up. They need to divest the system. They need to quit thinking voting matters. They need to divest fear of death. You know, that's another thing. Yeshua is trying to bring life. Go back and read it carefully. He was trying to bring life back to people, because you'll live your life so concerned about your own death and the death of your children and the death of grandma. You know, I've seen people, I've witnessed it. I've had
No, Mr. C. People aren't afraid to die, Mr. C. Are you telling me that they're afraid to die, and that's why they're wearing masks and they're using
exactly.
Fear? They're using fear to control. Everyone who's wearing a mask is afraid to die.
Yep, exactly. Or little Susie or grandma. And Yeshua's like, guys, pick up your cross. If you have big boy britches, drag it up the hill and stick it in the ground and get bled out like me. You'll go into Sheol. See, let me bring that back up. Why a capacitor? Capacitors are meant to discharge all at once. And it doesn't make any sense for everybody to go into Sheol. Okay. So let me break down the word nefesh.
Whoa, that's some gravy.
Let me break down nefesh real quick. So that's where we get soul, the word soul. So the biblical idea of a soul is the robot, the mind that drives the robot, and the breath that allows us to suck in and out and live. And it says when you croak, the electrical being goes into ground, because we can witness all electrical energy goes to ground. The breath returns to Yod-Heh Wah-Heh, presumably up where gases go. We can observe that are lighter than air. And then the body, the junker, the literally clown car, turns back into dust. The blood is purified in the soil, and then you can get a new body later on. But at this point, go do a search term for or do a Bible study on irredeemable, not worth buying back. Okay, he straight up said, guys, the thing you're driving around is irredeemable. We're not going to purchase it back. It's not going to go into the kingdom. How can murderers go into the kingdom? How can vampires go into the kingdom? How can any monster go into the kingdom?
Right. Well, he also says all sin in his eyes is the same, right? So I don't care if you baby blood or you stole a sticker spar. You're a sinner. Okay, you're not going to heaven.
Nate, do you know what the word sin means?
Missing the mark.
Missing the mark. That's one good definition from the Greek side. But did you know that 1 John 3:4 gives you the dictionary definition of what sin is?
Well, what is it? What are you trying to say?
I'm sure one of you guys could go skim over there real quick. But 1 John 3:4 says that lawlessness is Torahlessness, and Torahlessness is lawlessness. It means that your inability to follow basic instructions is sin, and that you suffer.
And that reminds me of Psalm 1, where it says, "Blessed is the man who walks in the ways of God, who meditates on his law day and night. He will be like a tree planted by the water, who will bear fruit. He will not lose his leaves. He will not wither and die. Anything he tries to do, he will be great at." Isn't that amazing? That's his plan for you guys. It's so easy. Just don't sin. Sin will keep you from God, but God will keep.
Let's look at the King Jimmy version here. Whosoever committeth sin transgress also the law. and it's speaking specifically at that time to the first 5 books, because you got to remember when it was written. We didn't have the canon we have today that was put together in 1850. They had the Tanakh, the writings, and the prophets, and of course the Torah. And so it's saying whoever commits sin, transgresses or breaks the Torah, for sin is breaking the Torah. So it's like this. If we're in Zelda, how far are you guys going to get in the game if you're going against every rule the game has?
Not very far.
Not very far. I was raised for 38 years as a Baptist, and I come from a very Baptist family, very involved, lots of deacons and pastors and all that stuff going on. And the one thing that every religion has in common is they all share this pseudo religion. They all share this truth and commonality that is a story that's not in the book. And I really do personally believe that the words, especially by Strong, I mean, he organized the KJV wonderfully, in my opinion. If you go back and you look at how it's organized, the way he did it, and you look up every word for word that you can, it flows good. It's not quite like the Masoretic texts, because Hebrew can be a little kind of like Tonto, like, let's ride horse to town, be good. It's English has a lot of filler words that aren't necessary. But let's go to this reality thing. So if you have a creator, and let's go through this Jesus Christ logic that everybody practices as Christians. So he's going to send his only son to come down and find anybody that just needs to say a simple prayer. By the way, the prayer is never the same. Everybody thinks the prayer is different. You say a simple prayer, and then you don't have to follow any of the instructions for the video game ever again.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is that we've been bamboozled by 80 years of charlatans that are standing up at the pulpit, who we should have made our servants anyway, because Yeshua said to make him our servant. And we have been bamboozled by the holders of the Torah, which are the Yehudim of today, or the ones that call themselves the Jews. We are victims of a mass deception. Now, according to Yod He Wahe, he says that the sins of our ancestors were great enough that he has reveled in us being asleep to this day.
Wow.
And it makes sense, because one of our great some or others did a little vampire action, or something happened where we're all suffering under the curse, right? Even if we don't want to suffer under the curse. Right now, it's the goats and the sheep. The Elohim are watching and they're evaluating. There's a separation, evil from good, light from darkness. He's never liked blending. Go back and read the Torah. He separated light from darkness from the beginning, because he saw darkness wasn't productive and light was productive. Stuff grows in light. Things happen in light. Birds chirp in the light. When it's choshek, darkness, nothing happens. That's right. But he's not going to destroy darkness. It never once does it ever say that till the end that he's even going to destroy Nachash, this wizard, sorcerer, whoever he is. We're just now getting this uncovering. We're just now in the last decade getting guys that are really digging into the biblical texts. We're just now getting biblical texts that we've just found. Or texts that were in Russia, and now we have a relationship with Russia, and we find these Hebrew documents that have been locked up in this basement in Russia for 300-400 years. So it's going to take a concerted effort for everybody to buck up, to grab their cojones. Even if they're ladies, they can grab their lady cojones, and to accept the situation where we are. We're all in an ice wall prison. The government won't let us get past the 60th south parallel, or they'll just straight up shoot you. So that right there tells you that they don't want the illusion to end, because everybody's going to stop paying taxes. Everybody's going to stop city building. we are, I think Nimrod did something similar, because when he was building his city tower that was said to be 12 miles at the base, that if a man fell, nobody cared. Everybody's like, oh, bye, George. He's dead. But if a brick fell, everybody would lament.
Mourn it, right?
Wow, how sad. That's how committed they were to getting up there.
That's how brainwashed I think they were. They could have been. Look at NASCAR guys. Look at all the distractions to keep you from sitting like Tesla, who sat as a boy for 12 hours a day under a tree reasoning and thinking.
Speaking of trees, because trees are a big deal, right? We think they cut down all the big trees. Maybe the Devil's Tower is a giant tree. That's a big gravy bowl right there. But
yeah,
I'm curious, what do you think the tree of life was? Because I know you have a theory that maybe blood was water, and we know what runs through trees is water. So what do you think the tree of life is? And
okay,
when they ate from it, was it cannibalism?
Okay, so I've thought a lot about this, and I've come to the conclusion that, well, first I'll ask you, what percentage of vampirism do you think you have in your robot?
I didn't know there was a percentage. What do you mean?
Right, exactly. Is there a percentage?
I don't consume blood. I haven't for the last 5 years.
Your inability to act on your vampiric urges doesn't mean that you have a lesser percentage. In my experience, there's a lot of people that have a lot harder time with dark urges, because I personally believe that depending on your lineage, it depends on how diluted it is. I mean, we know this, guys. We know 2 white people can have a black baby, and then they're freaking out, wondering what's going on, and it just turns out that great-great-grandpa was just a colored fella, right?
Right.
So, and going back to Yeshua, the skin color don't matter. Everybody's tainted. Everybody's inside the ice prison.
Yeah, there is no Jew nor Greek, nor bond, nor free, nor male, nor female. We're all one in Christ, and the one in Christ inherit the seed of Abraham and the promises within.
Yeah, and he's like, don't worry about your generations or your genes. None of that.
Not at all. It doesn't matter.
Funny, people who run the world do the exact opposite, and they're all obsessed with bloodlines. That's all that matters to them.
Yep. I mean, they're lost, man. They're like, they think that stuff matters, and they got, and they're having all this nepotism that leads to like look at the dude with the queen's son. That guy's a freak. And that's what incest leads to. Guys, the Torah is very clear. If you go back and you go word for word, you look up a word and you write down the basic definition. Then you maybe see what another scholar says. Oh, he says maybe this definition. And it's time consuming, but the problem with Christianity is you're dealing with a book of confusion to begin with. I've never met in my 38 years as a lifelong Christian any Christian that gave the same answer for any one chapter, because we're taught to go in and data mine based on a word. Oh, this has the word shoe in it. Well, that sounds good for my point. I'll use this one.
Right.
When the text was organized in context, it has a story. It's telling you something on purpose, not, hey, go grab all these verses and then goop it together like Play-Doh and you'll have a good point.
Right. And I don't want to get, not to get too technical or even discuss this, right? But I think that modern times have drastically misidentified the phenomena that we call light. Or I think light is nothing more than like a reverberation, if you will, of the very meaning right there. And so
it's an entity.
Okay.
Well, think about it. Look at go back and look at Genesis. Actually, you could pull it up and do a screen share. Sure. Pull up Genesis and go look at when it talks about the creation of light and darkness, and it's talking about children. It's talking about, look at the words. It's not talking about, I made this cool machine and it makes light. Then I made this cool machine and it makes dark. No, it's saying I made these entities, light and darkness. And it even talks about that he names them. He gives them names. It's not like, oh yeah, light's day, dark is night. It's literally him giving them a shem or a name.
Right. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
Well,
that's right.
This is my question to you. If he separated the light from the dark, well, then dark really isn't just the absence of light. Dark is its own thing. So here's my question to you. What is dark? Because everyone's talking about what is light. I'm over here going, guys, light's cool, right? But what is dark?
Well, where supposedly all the baddies in the end, because the northern Netherlands idea of hell that has been interjected into Catholicism B, which is Christianity. Sorry, Christians. Everybody has an idea of heaven and hell. Heaven is where you go up and there's gates and you see grandma and grandpa, and when Yeshua's like, guys, I came from up there and I came down, and only I'm going to go back up, which he did. He said there's only one exchange of any of these robots up and down, and it's only his action, right? So we're meant for the terrestrial. We were in, in heaven and brought into the garden. We were made for the garden, right? So if you're brought up at any time for any reptizo, it's just for a time in order for a purification process or for a change or for something. But, hell doesn't exist like we think. Heaven doesn't exist like we think. They're all ideas to keep you in fear of hell. The Catholics use the idea that you can buy loved ones out of hell if you cut a big enough check. I mean, it's a system of confusion to keep people away from this. Trust me, guys. When I came to Torah, I was a big time Christian. I was in the church. I was hanging out with my pastor. We worked together all the time. I was like in it to win it. And my older brother challenged me with a couple things. And like all siblings, I had to destroy him with truth. And so I studied these things out, and he was right, which I hated. And I continued on in this process of trying to prove things. And it's just like we do with flat earth, right, guys? You go to prove the globe because flatties are so stupid. How can you be so dumb? And you go and you prove, and you're like, well, that doesn't work. Well, I'll prove it with this. Nope, that doesn't work. Oh, I see too far. Oh, there is no curve. And so if you're unwilling to grow and to learn, and to, even if it's giant dung beetles that farm us for food, you have to come to a point where you're okay with that. You have to get to a point where you're okay with creation. You're okay that it's screwed up. You're okay that you're going to die, because you're not going to die. The eternal you goes into capacitance and is raised all at once for judgment. And then the Creator says, hey, we evaluated your life. It looks like you're good to go. You get to have another time, at the second life. And then others will be cast into the outer darkness. Some will be kicked into Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh's fire, which we don't know what that is, but I'm sure it's all consuming, which is scary. Because the only one that claims that he can destroy energy is Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. That should freak people out. Not dying here. You're in Zelda. Ooh, you lost a 1-up. Cry me a river.
All right. So here's another thing that popped in my head. Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you, in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Right. Clearly implicit is that there's light within all of us, intrinsic within the very framework of design.
Not all of us. It actually says, and you could search this real quick. It actually says that there is no good in any of us, because people were calling Yeshua good, and he said there is only one that is good, and that's the Father. Right?
Yeah.
And so, Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh himself said, because people were, posing the question about having a good heart. Oh, he has a good heart. Oh, Bob, he has a good heart. Tim, he has a good heart. And the Creator said, hey, I can check if you have a good heart. I'll just rip you apart on the counter here, and I'll examine your heart. Oop, wait, it might be better if we just observe your life and see how you react. Because if we go back to the wheat and the tares, he was trying to elaborate and to elucidate everybody to the condition of the world. And so we don't know if we're in what we would call vampires. We don't really know our true condition yet. We know we're sick and dying. We know we're having a hard time making, with all this sorcery poisoning our robots. We have 60 years now. Folks are just dropping like flies. So we're in a time where Yeshua says, I personally believe, where he says he has to return before everybody's schmooped. Everybody's going to be gone. And, we have to live in extreme gratitude we have to be grateful for all of the pain and suffering. We have to be happy for everything, because if you're not happy and you don't have extreme gratitude, you'll never make it out of here alive. And I mean that when I say you'll never make it out of here alive.
Right. So with this whole vampirism thing, Transylvania ties back to English royalty. This idea is nothing new. Philosopher's Stone, Fountain of Youth. It tracks back a long time. And so when you mentioned the Canine thing, it made me think, right? Well, one of the most infamous groups in Scripture is, of course, the Canaanites. Do you think there's a connection there?
That might be a homophone. That might, I would have to look that up. You know, it's hard for me because like when you read something in the English Bible, I'll listen to it, but inherently I know that I have to go look at the Greek because I'm sure it's different. And that's, I think, part of, the creator is not a prankster, a trickster. The creator is a rewarder. And, there's a lesson in Torah that says a well digger is rewarded for his depth of his hole. And what that's saying, in the desert, it's hot. And the deeper you get in the hole, the more moist the ground becomes and the cooler it becomes, right? You get 8 feet down and it's about 50 degrees. So that idea is given to us for Torah, that the deeper you dig, the more you'll be rewarded. So I personally feel like I've been rewarded with information for how intensely and how painfully, trust me, guys, Hebrew is a very difficult language, specifically because it's vast and it has changed over time, and modernly it's different. And all these things are difficult, and they have taken me a lot of steps and a lot of years. But I can tell you that the information is just right below the surface, the good stuff. Because I'm not trying to offend anybody, but remember, you're talking to a Christian for 38 years. Everybody's confused with the these, thous, that's, these, thous, thous. You can't hardly get any continuity or context from the beginning of a chapter to the end, because I firmly believe that for people that are lazy, and I mean no offense, for people that are lazy, that just have time to read, that is their reward, or the depth of their reward. And so they are rewarded with the depth at which English can give you in the Bible. With that said, I've seen many, many great, wonderful things that come out of the English Bible, obviously. But as a layer, there are, let's call English copper, and I'm advocating that there's gold and silver below the copper. A lot of people are just happy with copper.
Well, I agree with you 100% on that point, that English is the most wizardry flooded language, their final wizard project ever.
Yes. It's the world that is, or it's the language that's going to reunite the world, guys. When can you remember that the world was united in tongue?
Babel.
Exactly.
You already have apps now. You just speak Chinese into the app and it tells you what you're trying to say.
You don't even need that. We have English. You go to like these little islands and you're like, oh crap, I don't speak, and the guy's like, it's cool, I went to college in Minnesota.
I know. Yeah, and I know your favorite song, and it's made in English. And I know your favorite football player. He plays in America with an English name. Yeah,
that's right.
You were talking about digging a well. I think the well that we dig is for spiritual truths, and the natural man can't see that. The Bible says the natural man only sees natural things. He can't see spiritual truths. So all the Christians digging for spiritual truths, a lot of the times I hear this misnomer, oh, you're on a narrow path. No, it's a narrowing path. So you don't step into Christianity and all of a sudden you're illuminated, you know everything, you're super gamma. But you're going to learn things over time. God's going to reveal things to you. And I'd like you to expand more on the difference between wheat and tares. But it says, love your enemies. And we battle not against flesh and blood, guys. So a lot of these people are like, oh, we just need to take out Hillary and Joe Biden. Don't worry. The devil will find someone else to fill their spot, guys. He offered the entire world to Jesus. Jesus said no. And he said, oh, don't worry. I'm going to go give that to someone else. Someone who will take it and do what I want. And the Bible also says, and I just felt called to tell you guys this, set no evil thing before your eyes. A lot of people don't understand the biochemistry and how our body works. But for example, someone who constantly uses methamphetamines, if they see someone using it, the brain will have the same reaction as if they're using it. So don't watch violent video games. Don't watch violent movies. Don't watch violent TV shows. Don't don't partake in their wizardry, guys. It's terrible for you. It will literally kill your body and create disease in your meat suit. That's why God said, don't do these things. I made you. You were designed. You didn't come from rocks. And this is how your meat suit works. So, and if you could talk about wheat and tares, that'd be great.
Yeah, so the wheat and tares is a pretty simple story. You know, he tries to present things because the Elohim think we're like children, which is pretty obvious. You know, we're a bunch of drooling goobers that, you know, with snots. And, you know, so he comes down and he says, listen, when the master was resting, which we could assume is Shabbat, the seventh day, when the master was at rest, the bad guy went into the field and he sowed his seed. Okay. So now you have wheat coming up with tares. So if you type in tare, you're going to find that it's false wheat, and false wheat is poisonous. It's not good stuff. And if it wasn't for our screening technology today, tares would still be an issue with our flour production. And so back then, the only way to tell was to let the tare mature up next to the wheat, and then the wheat, the head stands up nice and tall, and the tare, that the head bows over. And there's other things that you can look for if you're an expert, but essentially what he said was, he said, no, if you pull them up now, you are surely going to get some wheat with the tares. And so that's a picture of a culling that would unnecessarily be getting good beings with the bad, right? So the Torah also says that if you have any proclivity for the Bible, for goodness, for anything that you could even think was biblical, that you have a small, tiny bit of Yod He Wah He seed in you. And that's the reason you recognize the call. That's the report. You hear the report and you come, you know. So that's good news for everybody that's listening that has that, you know, proclivity. But there's also others amongst us that have the seed of darkness. They're evil beings that were downloaded into evil bodies, and they're going to do evil things. You know, we have people that are hiding in public that are, you know, little old grandmother, 74, and then, you know, she dies of a heart attack, and they're cleaning out her freezer and they find 16 dead little kids in there, and she was eating them for, you know, 20 years. I personally believe that we're surrounded by monsters, and we might be monsters, you know, but the reality is that all this evil and darkness happens around us all the time, and we just plug our ears and, you know, say la 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 and try to focus on the Kardashians and basketball and distractions. And we need to focus on reality. We need to come together. We need to unite. We need to say no. It's okay to say no. Just say no. You know, you know, it's like all these folks in DC, these troops, they're starting to say no. They don't like it.
Right. Just to clarify, because I see in the chat here, you had mentioned earlier that prior to basically everyone getting wiped out, if you will, Yeshua has to come back to specify. Are you talking pre-trib, mid-trib? What do you mean?
Okay, so all this, yeah. So this is going to be the difficult part. So a lot of what I'm going to say is it doesn't have an attached religion, meaning there is no Christian religion really that is going to believe these things. And a lot of the stuff that we learn as Christians is just repeated behavior, like saying rapture, you know, are you pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib?
Right.
Guys, we're in tribulation. You don't feel the tribulation? Like,
I think it's very possible we're in tribulation, yeah.
We're in the tribulation, guys. They're literally murdering and encouraging the murder of millions of babies, unborn babies a year. We gat each other for Nike shoes. We're in a dumpster fire. This is trib. So if you think you're mid-trib, we are mid-trib. If you think it's just started, it is just started. We're in it. So, people need to focus on whether or not you're a being of light or not. I mean, you need to be outward. You need to let the Creator plainly see who you are. And I think that's what we are in this time. And we're going to start seeing weirder things. And the Torah, the Bible says that men of strength, Navy SEALs, spec ops guys will literally die of heart attacks for what they see in the end times.
Wow,
So
interesting.
that's, what's that going to be? People are going to have a hard time believing that they burn in the sunlight and that they're the only, they'll be like, no, my dog, I could swear my dog got sunburned one time. No, he didn't. Oh, what about my horse? Nope. All day in the sun. How about a tree? Nope. Never gets any blisters, because the sun is programmed to break down sorcery, alchemy. And so we are infected with some sort of alchemy, some sort of sorcery, a disease. This, I firmly believe that's what the sun is cooking on, because, let's talk about purification, biblical purification. What does the Bible say in English about how you would be purified in the end? That you would pass through fire, and what would remain? Only the light, and that the darkness would be burned away, right? So that's a picture of literally you going out into the light and saying, okay, I want to burn away the vampire in the darkness. And of course, unfortunately, you would just bloat and die again, because there is no fixing this condition. This is a form of autism that makes you want to have sex all the time and eat like an idiot and do all the other vampiric things that the body wants to do all the time.
Wow. So Nathan, like, the people who are running the world have mastered being dumb, evil idiots, right? And so they do really crazy things like what we're talking about, what the show's about. And I want to touch on vampirism, because a lot of people, and I never knew, I think you sent me a video, and it opened my eyes to why people have this idea that vampires bite people in the neck.
Right.
And what is up with that? Why are vampires biting people in the neck, right? So the greater the pain being endured, the more adrenaline is manufactured by the adrenal glands. Children hyperventilate from the constant screaming due to the intense pain of being tortured, so their blood becomes laden with oxygen. The high levels of oxygen pushed into the bloodstream from the lungs oxidizes adrenaline in the blood into its highly metabolized form known as adrenochrome. Adrenochrome is a chemical asset of our sympathetic autonomous nervous system. The human body can instantly metabolize adrenochrome, since pure adrenaline has been partially metabolized by oxygen via oxidization. Blood becomes saturated with adrenochrome as the body attempts to provide the sympathetic biological necessary for the flight or fight scenario, which the child is enduring. But there is no escape for the child. The witch consumes all the biologic energy as they drink the blood directly from the child's body while the blood is still warm and pumping. Adrenochrome almost instantly breaks into useless compounds in the blood once the child's heart stops. So the blood is best consumed right before the moment of death, meaning the child is alive and aware the witch is drinking their blood as they die. The jugular of the neck provides a highly oxygenated adrenalized blood straight off the aorta via a quick stab to the neck and with a deep bite. Vampirism is very real, guys.
So that also plays into the scene, or a few scenes in Interview with a Vampire, where they trick Louis by having him feed on a dead person that the heart had stopped beating and it was poison. So they put this stuff in their scripts. They put it in the movies. Hey guys, here's a question for you. What scares a monster?
The truth?
No, a monster that eats monsters. It scares the heck out of you guys to think about another partial vampire human being lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on you and drain your life-giving blood. And that's why the movies work. That's why it's scary, because we're monsters that are afraid of other monsters that are going to cannibalize us. And
I hate to ask this question, but basically this is what I'm seeing a lot, so I'm just going to ask it.
Sure.
Basically, it seems to lead down a logical road that if basically there's a delusion. So it's like if the blood's a certain level of being diluted or whatever that results in some of these characteristics, would it not stand to reason that then those that possess quote unquote more melanin, just for intensive purposes, those that aren't as affected by the sun, would that blood be less diluted, or is it pretty much the same? Or
we don't even know what condition is in the blood. Is it the iron in the blood? Is it the red condition? That's where Adam, it comes from dum, DM in Hebrew, or Adamah, which means soil or ground. And so that it's red or ruddy, that goes back to redhead. So I could argue that Adam was a pasty redhead because his name means to be red or to blush or whatever. There's a lot of interjection. None of us were alive to see Adam or shake his hand. What we can prove is that we are all tainted with something that makes us all sick and dying. I don't care. Like, there's very few, very black people in Africa that can take a lot of sunlight, but they'll even tell you, like, if you go watch a show about the Bushmen, even, that they'll spend a lot of time in the shade during the day because it's too hot.
Right.
It's melanin may, like, take myself. I'm a big, white, tall, northern white guy, blue eyes. I don't like the humidity. I don't like the South. I like seasons. But I try to get a lot of sun in the summertime, and I've noticed that if you do it right and you ease into it, it does make you feel better and more energized as you quote unquote tan, right?
Mhm.
But there is no amount of burning, there is no amount of purification that you can go through that is going to make your robot any better. We're all in a gremlin. That's why geographic bigotry or racism is so stupid, because we all got downloaded into a piece of junk, and we all want to fight over, like, what color the car is. Like, your car is black. Oh, yours white. Yours sucks. It's stupidity. And I have a hunch that the reason they hid Tartaria was because it possibly could have been world peace. I see old writings and drawings that show cities with prayer towers and churches side by side. What? Um, I study Islam, guys. I don't see all this CIA trumped up Islam stuff. I think it's all gaslighting to get us all hating on people that we don't know. I study Islam people, and they're like salt of the earth. They pray for Americans. They call us brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Like, the hate machine is strong. It wants you to be a nationalist. It wants you to be a patriot.
Yeah,
Right.
the people who run the hate machine are just total losers, because think about it. Why would you consume baby's blood? To live longer, to have some cool experience in your meat suit. So they're really just a bunch of losers who are afraid to die, and they want you to be a loser who's afraid to die too. Welcome to Clown World.
Hey, let's postulate that Baal Peor and Nimrod and possibly a few others were Gibborim or Gibor or supermen. And let's just postulate that they were the first vampires. And let's just say that, gosh, they didn't really die. Like, there's not a lot of record of any of those things dying, like Baal Peor or none of it. So what if these guys are buried underneath the ice in the Arctic, and these clowns are trying to get to them? Because if you read about Baal Peor, if you ate their flesh or his flesh and drank his blood, you could be changed. So is the offer, hey, Half-Blood, that's if one of these Baals are around and not chained up or whatever the condition is. But what if the offer is like on Bram Stoker's Dracula, where he says, hey, you can live forever in this realm, just do this. And he would literally be the Antichrist. He would be the opposite Messiah, the opposite Hamashiach. Why do you think I should have patience? There's a reason that Yeshua said, drink my flesh, or excuse me, drink my blood and eat my flesh. He was referring specifically to that horrible time in the history of Yisrael where so many people had turned and were killed for it. He's telling them, because everybody would have known that story, guys. Everybody would have known about Baal Peor. It would have been like the boogeyman story, right? And so when he's telling them, drink my blood and eat my flesh for eternal life, he's hearkening back to that time, but he's offering real eternal life, the good stuff, right? But you want to live forever as a weird demonic kind of mutant creature inside the dome, or do you want to croak and get resurrected later when it's all fixed? I'd rather croak.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and of course, just to clarify, so the way I see it, one of the many gravel doctrines and interpretations is this idea of us floating up to heaven
yes,
after we die. So
Yep.
there's a singular judgment day, and actually there's a new heaven and earth, and New Jerusalem comes to earth. Do you agree with that, or no?
yeah, there's a lot of the stuff that I actually haven't broken down word for word. Believe it or not, I do want to translate the entire Bible, but it's going to be quite a work. And if I were to go through all of my notes, I might actually be able to answer your question. But going off of memory, it's a little bit difficult. But I can tell you that because the algorithm of the Creator is so strong, that the Bible we have today is meant to be, and it's exactly in the form it's meant to be in to give us the information we need to continue.
Sure,
So,
I can't disagree with that.
So, I can't. It's hard for me to get mad or upset with people because they are babies in the Word. Well, we've been trained to be that way. We've been trained that all you got to do is get up the strength to be at church at 10 a.m. and sit there and be bored while the pastor reads his sermon he downloaded offline. And then we're going to have pork chops and other dead flesh down at the picnic, because it's the first Sunday of every, it's just like, it's all designed to keep you out of reality.
Right.
And go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good.
Well, I was going to say, I personally believe, as somebody that quite a while ago, not quite as long as Nathan has, but I stopped eating dead flesh because I personally believe you feed the man or you feed the vampire. And Shaul was clear that the more you starve the pyre, the more the man was easier to be. Meaning, if you have a nasty thought, it's easier to come into that thought right away and be like, nah, no thanks. By the way, you're going to die and be worm food. Ha ha ha. I like treating mine like a bag of garbage.
So,
it empowers you.
So the Bible says, make your meat suit your slave. Otherwise,
That's right.
you will be a slave of your meat suit.
That's right.
One of the reasons I exercise, because the whole time you're going, this sucks. Darn, dude. But I think, man, I'm just whipping this meat suit into shape because it'll give you the ability to control that ghost behind the machine, the spirit, even easier. That's why the Bible says physical exercise profits some, but spiritual digging a well profits all. And so I have a question for you. In the coming new world, which God will create, so let's call it the New World Order, there's to be no pain and no death. So are you saying that there's a vegan New World Order agenda, Mr. C?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess the word vegan is thrown around so much that people I know a lot of people that are like, oh, vegan. The original condition is what we're supposed to get back to. If you think about what a circuit is, an electrical circuit or a Boros, yin and yang, anything circular, the entire point is something happened in the beginning that was out of our control and way out of our timeline that messed this place up, and that the Creator has things in play that, like, he's the real Q, right? Has the real intel, and he's saying, hey guys, do what you can while you're here. I'm going to evaluate your life. When it comes to judgment, we're going to have a reboot. You're going to get version 2, but there's only 13 gates into the kingdom, and no wicked thing will enter one of them. And the reason 12 gates, not 13 gates. There's 12 gates in the kingdom because there's 12 tribes of Israel. And now you can say, who is Israel? Because there's a lot of people that are like, well, Christians will say, I'm Israel. And then you peg them down on it. And they're like, but I'm not Israel, but I am, but I'm not, but I'm spiritual, but I'm not, but I am. And it's confusion. The Bible's clear. Do you know who Israel is, guys?
I have a couple of theories. I'd like to hear yours. Israel.
I think it's a spiritual church.
Yeah, it's not a people group. Israel has always been whoever is willing to listen and do.
Correct.
It's that simple.
I agree. I kind of wanted to wrap it up here in a little bit, but I do want to ask you one more thing. So with the whole vampire, and it also gets it's more of like what's it called, the little Wolverine or whatever you call it. But It's really about them, the silver bullets, right? The idea of silver and what does that really mean? I kind of heard it a little earlier, right? So the idea
did I
of
lose you guys?
Quicksilver. If you'd like to kind of break down some of that gravy for the audience.
Yeah, tell them what Quicksilver is. That's the one thing I don't think we've covered. I really wanted to hear. And then eventually we have to land this plane.
Okay, so Quicksilver, if you look that up, is what I am saying is misconstrued in the etymology of monsters, specifically werewolves and vampires. I think there's a possibility that werewolf and vampire etymology, or the roots of it, might even be shared. But Quicksilver is mercury. And mercury is exceptionally poisonous. It's everybody knows it's bad except for dentists because they put it in your teeth. You know, I have a lot of conspiracies with that, but you know, that's what Quicksilver is mercury. But if you look at real silver that you mine from the ground, if you used ionized silver, it'll help with burns, cuts, bruises, infections. It's medicine. It's good.
Right.
So Quicksilver is, if anybody wants to do their own study, you can look at the new Mummy movie. You can look at the Quetzalcoatl inside the. So let's touch on that real quick. So, who is Quetzalcoatl? Quetzalcoatl was supposed to be a god that showed up one day to a bunch of natives down that are called Aztecs and Incans, let's say, and he says, "Hey guys, I'm a lizard god guy. And you need to cut up people and throw them down this hole in this pyramid, and I'm going to eat them every once in a while. No problems?" And so they worship this guy, Quetzalcoatl, the plume serpent, which harkens back to maybe the Nachash from the beginning, right? And then there's this talk of liquid mercury pools being found in these pyramids, underneath these pyramids, and that it has possibly something to do with vampirism in some way, either trying to capture one or whatever. But the only there's a saying that says you only go to court with what you can prove, right? And so the only thing that we all can prove is what we can observe together. We all share reality, and we're all trying to come together and trying to figure out what's purple, what's blue. Is that a dog? Do you see a dog? And so we can come together and we can agree that we're all tainted in some way and unnatural, because we look at the natural world and it doesn't get burnt by the sun, but we are. And of course we could go on and on with all the similarities between vampirism and the condition we all share. But probably the biggest one is what Yeshua said to, I believe it was Kepha or Timothy. And he was telling his boys, like, listen guys, here's the deal. I'm going to go through some stuff coming up here that you guys can't do. Only I can do it. And it's going to be rough. And I'm going to get captured, and this is going to happen. This is going to happen. And what happens? This guy gets all roughed up. His vampire gets all puffy. And he's like, no, they're not going to touch you. We're going to get swords, and we're going to cut them, and we're going to do this. We're going to do that. And Yeshua turns to him, and what does he say? Get under me, Hasatan.
Right.
Well, what that means is Hasatan, or the Satan. All Satan means in Hebrew is opposition, the opponent. If you're a boxer, the other guy's Hasatan. He's the opponent.
Yeah,
he's the Satan.
If you're Satan, anyone speaking God's word is the Hasatan. So we are Satan to Satan, because anyone speaking God's word and living in truth is his enemy.
Right. And so when he said get under me, that's he's talking about authority. And what he was saying was, the guy was getting all his vampire was getting amped up. He's like, let's go skin women and children. The guy wanted to go berserk because of the idea of somebody touching the supreme, the Hamashiach, Yeshua. And he was getting haired up to the point that he wasn't even listening to the plan. And Yeshua was like, yo, you need to shut up, bro. And he was talking to the vampire, not to the man. That's why he called him the opponent. Get under me, Hasatan.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. And check this comment out. It says, see what you think about this. The connection with liquid mercury has to do with its ability to magnify and tap into electrical frequencies, i.e. communication with those fallen luminaries, i.e. principalities.
Also supposedly linked to the ability to levitate.
Wow.
Yep. You're supposedly, if you put an electrical high voltage charge to mercury and spin it, it essentially, have you guys ever seen like, and I think we did this in science in school, but you take like a really heavy wheel and you spin it, and you can hold out with your one arm and hold it no problem, because the rotational inertia, it like reduces the quote unquote weight of the item.
Right.
So in the same vein, supposedly you can put that in a spaceship and spin that mercury around and apply that voltage, and now all of a sudden you're quote unquote weightless. So yes, there's lots and lots of stuff we don't get. There's lots of stuff to learn, but the big one is come together as a community, support each other, love each other, spread kindness, spread love, spread cheer, and kill the beast. We need to, if we do not divest the track we're on, if we keep believing in the Santa Claus government that is always at war with somebody, and we don't start loving Islam and Buddhists and every other religion, because they're all sick and dying just like we are, and they're all lost just like we are, because India NASA's like, oh, look at us, we went up to the moon, look, oh, they're deceived. Everybody's deceived. And until we get out of the deception and understand that when Yeshua, I'll give another Yeshua lesson. Yeshua was teaching, and somebody said, yo, Yeshua, your mom and your bro are outside. And Yeshua said, who? And he's like, your mom and your bro, like, hello.
Right.
And he said, I look out and I see my mother and my brother, my sister and my father. Anybody, any one of you that loves my father is related to me. And he was talking to the eternal beings, not to the vampires, not to the carcass. He was talking to the eternals, the electrical beings, the mind, the ment, right? So yeah, we should do this again. I know you guys want to wrap this up. There's so much information to talk about. It's pretty silly.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I can tell you've definitely done some research, man. I respect that. I respect people that want to go verify it for themselves, and they know that we live in the time of such immense wizardry that it's actually a requirement. You're always going to have people spiral in the chat. I'm sure that with how you speak your mind unequivocally as to where you are now, you're used to that. I'll address them once we wrap it.
It doesn't bother me what people say, because number one, they're not in my game. They're not in my video game. So they don't really affect anything. And, only I know what I know. Only I know how many hours I've agonized through a day to look at these words and to study and dig. And, guys, I even confuse my family. I'll rattle stuff off thinking it's common knowledge, and they just look at me, like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
So I love everybody in the chat if they're beings of light. If they're beings of darkness, I hope that they're revealed so they can go into their herd. We need to encourage this separation.
Yeah, and iron sharpens iron, and we're supposed to hold steadfast and prove all things to be true.
That's right.
Not partake in darkness, but rather reprove it and expose it, in fact, right? So we are actually commanded to go look out for these things. And anyone that thinks they have it all figured out when it comes to the scripture and then the layers of prophecies and spiritual importance within those scriptures is kidding themselves.
Yep. It's all postulates at this point. It's all educated guesses. And remember, humble yourselves. The Elohim say that we're a bunch of drooling kids eating poop out of the sandbox. So let that humble you. Nobody has the answers. Everyone will eventually know. Like look at the resurrections in the Torah. Shaul, King Shaul's buddy, got resurrected, and he knew what was going on because he got debriefed on the deal. You know what I mean? So the dead can obviously, get instantly downloaded with knowledge if need be. And maybe we'll be in that condition for judgment. Nobody knows. We're not at judgment yet, but we do know that we're in a dumpster fire, and unless we pull our heads out as adults and we stop being angry and we stop wanting war and we stop eating the flesh of the dead, which keeps you under a spell, it's going to be hard to change.
Yeah, I agree. People need to open their minds and try to get right. We live in a time of great deception. Dude, thank you so much for jumping on. Pretty late notice, dude, and you can ladle lots of gravy, man. Hopefully some people brought their biscuits and soaked it up and weren't just freaking out, being little special boys. because I think that information like this is important. You know, I think that we're supposed to come to teach and learn.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and take and take it or leave it. You know, like if everybody's in the chat is freaking out, guy, then pretend that I'm just like telling a story, and you know, it's just like as fake as Tolkien. You know,
Right.
this pretend it's Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it shouldn't bother you, right?
Right.
So a lot of people are asking. I think Nathan maybe said you didn't have a channel, but is there anywhere people can find you or hear you? Yeah, okay. A lot of people saying you should get one, man. Maybe something to think about.
Yeah, no, I probably won't. I've actually ran from fame for years and years and years. I don't actually want any part of that because, like, just look at what Nathan goes through with all these kooky guys being like, you know, I'm going to kill your hamburger and your family, and like just wackadoo, you know, and you know, I really don't want any part of that. So
Hey, I feel you on that, man. I can relate on that, dude. I like to make music, but that was one of the main things that made me never do it. Was like, well, if I was very successful, would I even like it? Right, the idea of fame, and I kind of do because I feel led to. Bob reached out to me before I ever did it, but I feel you on that one, man. So I can't judge you there.
Austin, is that your music in the intro?
Yeah. Yep.
Dude, I had no idea. I'm like literally like bopping my head and vibing out, looking at my son, and all of a sudden I kind of heard like one of your inflections, and I went, "Wait, is this Austin?" Yeah, your stuff is pretty good, dude.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah. Keep up with that for sure. Like it's hard to do that. People think it's easy, but it's not.
Right. We'll do, man. We'll do, and we'll definitely have to do this again, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, I don't have a channel, so you guys will have to have me back on so I can ladle more gravy, right?
Yeah. We'll do for sure, bro.
Awesome, man. All right. Well, love and peace. Love you guys. Spread the love, spread the gravy, and you guys have a good one.
All right, later, bro. Much love.
All right.
Oh yeah. And hey guys, as you can see, I got my shades on because this is the wrap up segment, and they fit my face because they're way too big. What's up, everybody? That was a lot of gravy. We're keeping the sunglasses on the whole time just because I know some of y'all are already spiraling, so why not just add fuel to the fire? In a world where no one knows what the world is, who will prevail? All right, so I'm going to check the donations and the super chats here in a second. They're all going to be read at the end. If you have any questions pertaining to the subject, now is the time to send them in. Of course, the Growlers take 33% of anything you send on super chat. I don't get them for a month to a month and a half out, but it is still greatly appreciated. If you would like to support the tour that we're going on, which is, of course, Clown World Tour, then the best, most efficient way is, of course, either Cash App or PayPal. I don't take it. It comes instantly. You will, of course, be shouted out. So trust me, I get it, guys. That's a lot of stuff. We've hit you with back-to-back streams that are mind-blowing, just the mere premise of them. I get it. Saw a lot of people that wanted to talk about scripture. Look, man, the purpose of this stream was not for me to come on, have him come on and to have a theological debate with him or some churchian debate. I don't agree with him on everything, I'm sure. I mean, you know, y'all know how I feel. If you can't even hear other information, you're never going to get down to the heart of an issue. Okay, so iron sharpens iron. And clearly, I would say that guy's heart is in the right place. Hence him studying for years, trying to find the truth, which most people do not do. When it comes to the actual subject itself, right, basically vampirism, an idea that people think is just preposterous, right? So the night is young is what we call the stream. And here you go with a little picture of the thumbnail. The night is young. Okay, because of course they do all this activity at night. What is young? How do you attain youthfulness? Is there a way to prolong this? Looking to the Philosopher's Stone, Elixis, the Fountain of Youth, adrenochrome, the chemical compound being a rabbit, also looking like a proboscis. Which, so if you connect this stream with last night's stream and you're able to apply spiritual discernment, I know many people are not. I'm not going to prohibit what streams I make based on what I think that the average person can fully interpret or is ready for. If you understand the way that these things are tying in, you'll start to see a much bigger picture here. There's a metaphysical battle going on, and there are layers to the deceptions within this metaphysical realm and how it extends into the physical reality. You need to be spiritually equipped. You must have spiritual discernment. This comes through experience, but not experience within the physical body. It comes from experience with God. And God knows your true heart, just like he was saying. He was on point with a lot of things. I don't know why a lot of people were spiraling. I'm not going to read one single chat about some churchian attempts to drag this into theological debates. That's not what this is about. If you look back to Transylvania era, the idea of a vampire does not pop out of nowhere, and it's very old, and it's tied to real people, very real people, not Disney characters, real people, okay? And you have to ask yourself, why is this? What does that mean? Now, basically his take being that we've all once we are now in this fallen state, that we are all basically what people call vampires, and it's just them kind of showing you in plain sight of what it is, your body in its fallen state and some of the characteristics that it has. And maybe some people actually not only embrace that, but prefer it and even chase it. And maybe there's a spectrum of these characteristics. I do not know, but you know what I do know is that you don't know. What I also know is that all sin is equal and that not one man doesn't sin. And we were told that specifically, and that without Yeshua, the mediator, there is no escaping your sin. The wages of sin is death. So really you're instantly punished, or more so sentenced to death. You need to have your mediator. And this comes down to the life force. The idea of water, was water originally blood? Did the tree of life having water in it, did what we were made up of change once we entered a fallen state? And now our actual body, of course, intrinsic within the blood's makeup of what the life force within it is, even if that once was water. Well, if you were to change the entire intravenous exchange of your life force, then how it is that you absorb the sunlight, which gives life to everyone, would be altered. This is common sense. The sunlight gives life to everything on the earth. Your blood is your life force. If we once had a different version of what we call blood, our life force, maybe water, just like we were intrinsically tied to what the trees live off of, your life force is now affected differently by the force that gives life, the sun. To think that this has no logical framework is laughable. Some people just lack the intellectual confidence to talk about some of these things, but not here. As I'm sure you are aware, we are not scared of any subject. So I'm going to read the donations here in a second, but simply in conclusion with the recap. This tracks back a long time, and it seems they put it in right in front of your face. There's something that goes on in the metaphysical realm, something that goes on in your dream state. There's something very real to that. There's something beyond what you see physically. The ether's real, but can you connect with in this metaphysical realm within your dreams, or your dreams completely fictional? Who are you interacting with if you have interactions within your dreams? Can they manipulate these things? No, not if you're protected by Yeshua, but can they coax you into pursuing this astral plane, this metaphysical, this zone that actually you typically aren't even allowed to see because of the way that you were engineered and designed? And we're in a fallen state, and this vessel's nothing. And if all you care about your vessel or how you look, then you're screwed. This is why I still have a chipped tooth for 3 years when I could have easily gotten it fixed numerous times. And I just don't care what people think. I'm wearing sunglasses and I'm clearly in a house right now, right? So stop caring what people think. This is just some suit, some flesh suit that bleeds and that can be ripped, and you need to take care of your body. Your body's a temple. You need to eat healthy, you need to work out, you need to get right, but it's not what goes in your mouth that defiles you, it's what comes out. And of course, this is why I do not allow cussing on this channel if I can all prevent it, because I'm trying to work on that myself. And he who does not bridle his tongue, his religion is in vain. Of course, religion, what is that? Yeshua actually hated religion. There you go. There's a conclusion, right? The idea of vampirism isn't some unfounded, crazy idea. Very rich, powerful people that pass power through their bloodlines have tried to find a way to ensure the maintaining of that power structure for generations into the future. And of course, what better way to do that than if each singular figure that plays their role within these generational lines or timelines was to be able to extend their lifetime or their lifeline. Well, then, of course, if they can extend the timeline of their life, then they'd be able to more successfully ensure their reign and successful transitions. And they go to the extent of literally capturing and torturing children that within the sexic occult magic, which is a K, which tracks all the way back to Atlantean sex magic, which is why whenever you mess with all of this crazy sex magic that comes from the Eastern world, you need to pump the brakes. There's a spiritual residue. This comes from the Watchers, right? So, they do all this crazy stuff when it comes to pedophilia under 8 years old. They're psychopaths that are sunken in depravity. But no, they would never do anything like this, because it's hard for me to face these things. These are uncomfortable streams back to back, but y'all are going to be okay. And we're just trying to piece these puzzle pieces together. And that's why I have much respect for him. Thank you for coming on, Nathan. It was awesome. You crushed. I know a lot of people don't agree with you on everything. I don't even agree with you on everything, but that's not why I had you on the stream, was to agree with you on everything. Who makes content like that? That sounds terribly, morbidly boring. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's pretty crazy. Look into English royalty, look into their obsession with blood, look into the idea of blue bloods. Is there a distinction, or is that just what they believe? Is there a dilution rate or spectrum? This is a good question, right? And then think about what I told you about like water. And we know that water reacts and actually can change on the molecular level based on frequencies. What does your body constantly put out? What is everything? Everything is vibration and frequency. Matter is nothing more than a certain vibrational spectrum of the background medium itself. Everything has God is within everything, okay? And so that's just the truth of the matter. And you need to realize that the practice of child sacrifice and consumption of cannibalism and consumption of blood stuff, this is not new, okay? Now look into elixir, look into all of these things. These things are very real, okay? And you should look into them. And of course, adrenochrome is clearly very real. It was in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. If you look at the blue bloods, red bloods, do they want to eat each other? Do they want to eat us? Do they want our blood? Is their blood more diluted than us? And do they want the less diluted blood to consume to maybe help them maintain some semblance of youth? I don't know. Sounds crazy. Trust me, I get it. Well, we live in a clown world, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't make the world. I didn't make these psychopathic people pass down power through generation after generation. I did none of that. I'm here to do nothing more than ladle the gravy, slay the wizards, bring you the message. Please don't shoot the messenger, because we don't got time for that. And actually, no one cares. Your bullets can't hit me. Ha ha, no weapon should prosper. So there you go. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. If you can't do that, this is not the place for you. Trust me. So there you go. That's how I feel. I'm not an expert on this subject, other than I do know that it actually does tie into English royalty in modern history. It isn't just some crazy, unfounded, science fiction novel, and you should look into it, okay? Once again, the primary thing that's clicking for me right now is the idea that water is very powerful. It has a spiritual importance. We still can't understand it. It gives us all life. It's the most important thing ever. It actually changes based on the frequencies around it. It can change molecular structure. It can actually turn into light, like star in a jar, sonoluminescence with a certain frequency. Something's very important about water. And it constantly moves. It never stops. It's constantly moving. Oh, kind of like the spirit, kind of like the metaphysical realm. So it seems as if this was our life force, and maybe it was changed and tainted because of the fact that we are now in a fallen state. But what was a tree of life? What was it made of? What was its life force? What's a tree's life force? It is water. This is very interesting. If you don't think it's interesting, I don't know what to tell you. Then now think about this saying that's been ingrained into our heads: blood is thicker than water. Blood is thicker than water. Wonder why that's such a saying that everyone's heard a million times. There you go. Take it or leave it. Something's going on here. All right, I'm going to read the super chats, and then we are going to dip like ranch. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Wait till I get my other sunglasses, and we're going to make it a regular thing. I'll read my super chats and sunglasses so the gammas can spiral. Oh, I was wearing his sunglasses. I must be nice. It must be nice to have sunglasses that you don't even own and you took from Nathan. Also, we're going to have new merch coming. Definitely should check it out. We got 2 dope videos on the channel that we just uploaded and premiered tonight before the stream. Definitely check them out. Your boy Nathan, effectively punked me, and I thought that we were going to meet the guy with the RV in Oklahoma. As tentatively, maybe we'll take it. We were riding all the way down the coast in the van. Boom, all of a sudden the RV's outside front. Pretty crazy, interesting video. Well edited by my boy Nathan. You should check it out. It is, of course, right below this one. And then we have another video where another NASA employee goes down in flames. Didn't even have time to engage with him personally because he started running away like a little baby. And so if you want to see a modern gamma male, we'll check that video out. And lots of content like that coming in the future. Lots of stream coming. Like I said, I don't necessarily agree or disagree with everything that guy said, right? That's not why I had him on here. I just want people to hear certain things they haven't heard. Realize that the English language is very grabbled. It's being used meticulously. It was set up meticulously to grabble things, to dilute true meanings. So you're going to have to do what this guy does if you want to know the truth, right? You have to go try to find the truth yourself. And I respect him for that. Not many people in here that think they know it all actually have even done it. Now, some of the people that were disagreeing with him, I know them personally. They have researched a lot. Well, respect to you, salutes, right? And I think that that's the way it works. And then iron sharpens iron. There you go. All right, now let me actually get to the super chats this time. In a world where the last 2 streams have made gammas implode, who will prevail? Rob Cleveland, 777. Keep up the great work, my guy. Make a trip to Vegas if you can. thank you for the kind words and the donation. With the support is greatly appreciated, my dude. And yeah, sure, we will make a trip to Vegas, even though that's place is sunken in depravity, probably irreparably. We have a couple other people there, and it should be cool. Yeah, so we plan on stopping through there. Of course, the Grand Canyon's in Nevada, so we can definitely link up, bro. Email me at Whitsitt at Proton Mail, or even better, at email Nathan at flatearthflyers@gmail.com, and we'll set it all up. So should be cool. Admit your mind is gravy. Yeah, admit your mind is gravy, dude. Stop lying. You didn't know about what your blood is. What's up with your blood? And is it water? Ooh, what's up with water? Can you fully define water? Can you fully tell me the metaphysical, or more so even the physical properties of water? Can you fully identify them? No, you cannot. Can you explain cymatics or sonoluminescence with a scientifically validated explanation? No, you cannot. So there you go. Light's beyond our comprehension. Water's beyond our comprehension. Are these interconnected? What is light? What is water? What is your life force? I don't know. It's probably whatever they said at Princeton. All right. Real fast. Check and see if we got any cash yet. Oh, yeah. We're going to play a little bit of that video I played the other night. Not for gas. Eat well on your trip, bro. Thank you very much, Michael. Will do. Appreciate the cash out. My bro is a legend. Michael Line, just always helping a brother out. You are the man. Thank you very much, bro. And now we got an RV. We got a fridge. We're going to be eating fine, dude. All right, we're good. That was all the donations. If you do want to support or help for this tour, then let us know. You can just send a message with PayPal Unlimited if you'd like something to be said. And all help is greatly appreciated. I am currently going to try to get these. I'm going to show you a video right after I show you all these, I guess. Whatever, forget it. Let's just watch this one right now. In a world. So if y'all didn't see this last night, maybe you did, but just keep in mind everything we're talking about right now, and then we're going to watch a couple minutes of this to refresh your memory.
Popes all having had a black eye at some point. Pope Benedict, black eye. Pope Francis, black eye. All these black eyes. Justin Bieber with his black eye. Queen of Elizabeth with her black eye. This here is the cover of a Rolling Stone, and this is Hunter S. Thompson with his black eye. How did Hunter get his black eye? By drinking adrenochrome. Adrenochrome is the fruit of the tree of life. Do not eat the fruit of the tree of life, you surely shall die. Or as Boris, hence Satan, says, eat the fruit of the tree of life, surely you won't die. These people don't die. They live and live. And so right here in Hunter S. Thompson's attorney's eye, you see the Vesica Pisces. This is the male and the female union. In the center here, there's Jesus Christ fish, which looks like this. Vesica Pisces. And what happens at the union of male and female? Birth. You get the birth. The baby sitting in a spurt of blood, and the blood, because you eat your baby, because these are reptilian blue bloods. And the reptilians eat their babies. The reason they eat their babies is because that baby gives them an extension in their vessel. They live longer. So this blood that goes into your mouth gives you the black eye club, because now the baby's spirit has become your spirit. This is why the window to Hunter's soul is the baby here and here.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting. And that is linked in the stream last night. If you'd like to watch it all, I had it sped up. That dude Ladle's Gravy. We might have him on for a stream in the near future. We also have a very special guest to be on the show later this week. So stay tuned for that. You definitely don't want to miss it. It's going to be epic. Real fast. So if anybody wants to help out with this, you don't have to. Don't donate if you can't donate. But I just had to pay a bunch of stuff. I can't quite afford these yet, but these are what I'm going to need to get right here. I'm looking into getting these. So these are spy glasses, kind of like what Nathan has. They're $200, but they look different than his, so no one will notice that we're wearing the same ones. And yeah, there you go. Records in high definition should be cool. That way we can get all the the footage undercover, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, if anyone does donate money after this point right now, just know that's where it's probably going to go to, unless you specify where it'd like to go to. Of course, we try to honor that because we aren't little gammas here. So anyway, it's been real. It's been cool. Check that out. Hopefully, we'll have some of these legendary guests on here. And there you go. So expect a lot of good content out of the videos. Apparently, we have officially transitioned into a totalitarian government. So that should be fun, right? We went into the post office and immediately were just attacked by frothing zombies who apparently all think they have to obey the psychopathic pedophile that is Joe Biden. Joe Biden made an executive order and he makes the rules. Literally, someone said that. A secret king that was in a literal secret king that was in the freaking post office. It was hysterical. But no, but the president made an executive order that you got to wear a mask, and then he broke it within 30 seconds of passing it. And we all know that he's not going to be able to keep up with who doesn't do anything. He can't even remember his name. So is Joe Biden keeping a list? Tell him to keep a list, because if I'm beyond the 10th name on the list, he won't remember it. Like, why are you scared of Joe Biden? And he can't even walk on stage without looking like he's about to crumble and collapse. The world has lost its mind. So we're going to be dealing with that, where we can't even go in places. So we need the spy glasses. Both of us have to have a pair on so that immediately in the moment we can be prepared to go and have it. So I'm just going to have to suck it up and spend the $200 on it whenever I can afford it. But anyway, like I said, I hope you all enjoy this show. Like I said, I know it's a lot to take in, but I'm just pointing people in the right direction to research things if they're open-minded enough and diligent enough to try to go find out some of these forbidden truths. That's all this channel is for. It's to provoke thought and to seek and speak truth. It isn't for anything else. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Links to support in the description. If you would like them read out or not, specify, please. They will be read out unless specified. And again, much appreciated. Much love. There you go. That's it. No idea what the stream will be about tomorrow. I think we're going to get on the road tomorrow. I'll probably hit y'all with the stream at some point in time. Not sure when or what it'll be. Tentative on the Globebusters. I'm going to try to, of course, do Globebusters while we're traveling, I guess. We should be in North Carolina tomorrow. And if you would like to see what's up at the trip, hit us up, and we will pencil you in. I'm not going to do a super chat for this. Cash App or PP. Well, thank you for the $5 super chat, my man, Michael Line. And it's up to you, bro. Whichever one. PayPal's fine. Cash App's fine. Which one do I prefer? I don't really have a preference. PayPal helps a lot of people out because you can type a longer message if you want more, if you have more to say. I think you have my digits anyway, so whatever. But yeah, Cash App and PayPal are the two best. Like I said, I'll read them out. I appreciate all the support. You are awesome. Check out the videos we posted before the stream tonight. They're pretty epic, and we have a lot more coming. So it should be cool. All right, cool. With all of that said, unplug from the system. It's this ideological box that keeps you trapped in confinement, mental confinement, spiritual confinement, right? Metaphysical confinement, mental confinement, where you just sit here and you don't know what's really going on. You're detached from reality. And so you adopt a worldview of nihilism and apathy and materialism as if any of those were even viable. And this is because of your misinterpretation of the world itself, typically. But the point is that you have to step back to fully see what's going on. You have to detach. That's the only way that you can do it. Take it from me. If I walk in to get my oil change and the news is playing, I immediately get a headache. It literally makes me almost sick to my stomach. And this is because frequency is being emitted from that television, I guarantee you. So, detach, disconnect. That's all it is, okay? And seek to speak truth unequivocally. And throughout all of history, the weaker-minded people have got together, thrown rocks to the stronger, independent thinkers. This happens throughout all history, where it is a badge of honor for whenever they revile you for his sake. Certainly to rejoice, because they did it to the prophets before you, and actually your reward is great in heaven. So to step up in the face of persecution in a state of rejoicing, right? So don't be scared and stop living in fear and stop with all the fear porn. The world's not about to end. All the QAnon retards. Okay, it's over. It's over. Can we please stop? It's over now. So please stop, because you're hurting yourself. And I love you guys. I'm not actually calling all of you retards or whatever, but like, it is retarded at this point. It's effectively retarded at this point. So let it go. You don't depend on the state. Don't depend on other people. Don't depend on Donald Trump. You need to depend on God, and that's it. And you need to have full dependence upon him, full faith upon him. So get right with God. You've never needed to do that more than right now. And some say, that, everyone always says that. I don't know what to tell you, but you need to get right with God because you're facing immense deception. And You know, he's the only one that's going to provide spiritual discernment of that stature that you need. Well, I don't know what that was. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, we're going to actually get out of here this time. I don't know why StreamYards is tripping. Well, let me get down here to the video. It's somewhere. All right, cool. So, yeah, there you go. Unplugged from the system. Catch up with y'all later. Links to support in the description. Much love. Catch up with y'all later. Peace.
Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they sipper pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl, somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick with a forceful grip. They force them as simple that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature, the mean extorted it. They forging it, if news anchors informant to informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this, we courting ships important. Yes, of course it is, but extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informing this, informing this. It looked like we were snoring tricks. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they sip with pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's